Hi, I'm Dr. Jon Mendelsohn with Advanced Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. In today's world and with today's ever-growing technology, we all know a picture can be taken anywhere at any time and shared in an instant. We also know that our patients live active lives and we want you to always look your best. So stay tuned as we bring you our series called True Selfies.
I just went to Las Vegas and posted 1 million photos on Facebook, and I didn't edit a single one, didn't Photoshop them, didn't do anything to them, which is amazing because I feel like my skin is so tight and smooth and the wrinkles are gone.
So over the last 6 months, as I have a birthday coming up, I started thinking about how can I improve my look? I've been lucky enough to have very good skin and used a lot of the product from the practice, both sunblock and exfoliant. And I kind of wondered about, should I check into a lower facelift? Earlier in the year, I went to a conference with Karen, and there was a doctor from South America. And one of the things that he did was he had me on stage and he took a iPad and he held it up over my face and said, "How does he look here?" And there were some comments, and then he went, "How does he look here?" And everybody said from here up I looked very young, but from here down I could use some work. So at that point, Karen and I started talking about could we achieve what we wanted to do with fillers and Botox. And one is, as a businessman, I'm looking to present myself on the cutting edge, both from my own physical appearance, from my health, from my state of mind. I work very hard to have a very positive state of mind when I'm out in the business world and even at home. So this is just one more piece of what Dr. Mendelsohn and I have talked about, and the theme would be men's health. And so to me, this was just one more piece that was very important for me to be able to present myself and be as competitive as I can at my age. Yeah, I don't think I really had any fears. And then whenever I came in here, both Dr. Mendelsohn and yourself were very thorough in attempting to make certain I understood the process. So I came in with really a very positive point of view on this and looked forward to it. So before the procedure, I didn't really have any fears. I wondered how long it would take me to heal and how soon I could go back out in public. And it was really very simple. The first night was probably my worst in the sense that I had to sit up and sleep or kind of lean back in the couch and sleep. And the wrap around my head kind of hit my Adam's apple a little bit when I swallowed. But other than that, to me, it was very painless. And in some situations, quite comical that I was almost awake throughout this and could hear Jon talking and caught him kidding me a couple of times. So to me, the whole procedure went so smoothly. And 2 nights later, we were at dinner at a neighbor's house. And so people couldn't quite tell what I had done. So they were asking, and they were amazed that after 2 days, we were out to dinner. Oh no, I remember all the conversations and even some of the jokes that I told, and I think I heard Dr. Mendelsohn finally say, "Give him another pill. I need to get this thing done." Yes, this has happened. People that both I've worked with and prospects, as I've met with them over the last month, a couple of them have actually looked at me like the dog turning its head, and finally have said, "What have you done differently? You look much younger, you look much more fit." This week I just was in New York and I had dinner with my daughter, and she hadn't seen me since I had the procedure. And she's 25. and we went to dinner. I met her at a restaurant, and when I came in, of course, a big hug, but then as we're sitting there talking, she was like, "Dad, this is the first I've seen you since you had your procedure done, and I love it." She goes, "It just looks like a younger you." And so it was quite interesting. And the same is happening with friends, as we're out to dinner. I think probably the thing that I like the most is that their comment is, "You look so much different, but you look like yourself still." And, so I think Dr. Mendelsohn has done a tremendous job of his artwork and the way he helps us look when we're finished. It's not drastic, but people do notice.
That's really good.
So it's interesting. I just came back from a business trip, and one of the days I was in New York, and I had planned a dinner with my 25-year-old daughter while I was there, and this is the first that I've seen her since I had the procedure. And so we met at a restaurant, and of course she gave me a big hug and a big smile. And as we sat down and talked, she kept looking at me and she said, "Dad, you still look exactly like yourself, just a little bit younger." And she said, "I think it's a great job." Share my experience with other men, businessmen like myself, and I was really excited about it. So what I was very pleased with was throughout the entire process, from my first meeting with Karen Lynch, and then with Mark, and even going home and talking to my wife Karen about it, it was all so personalized, and everyone wanted to make certain that I was comfortable with this and understood what the outcome would be. At every point, everyone on the staff asked me, was there any question that I had? Did I have any fears? Was there anything else that I wanted to know that would help me feel more comfortable? So I was very pleased. It is a very personal experience, and everyone in the staff handled it perfectly. Yeah, the interesting thing is when we talk about expectations, I'm not quite certain I had any solid expectation other than, my hope was that, I would lose a little bit under my chin. I had probably what I would call some sun damage with some wrinkles. And so, because you do wonder, gee, what is my face going to look like? Am I going to look the same as in my own vision that I looked like? And that is one of the things that was quite fun this morning, because we had done before pictures and after pictures. And, when we look in the mirror at ourselves, I think we can't always visualize, gee, how is this going to look after the fact? But it was amazing today to see my before pictures and my after pictures from the side, and there was one really good one from the front on. My face looks much thinner. So did it meet my expectations? Above and beyond. And it was even more fun to see those pictures today. Pre-procedure, one of the things that Karen suggested was that, probably should not have a glass of wine every night before the procedure. That was a hard one. We enjoy our time of sitting around while we're fixing dinner and having conversation of a glass of wine. So I lived through that week. It was okay. The night before, once again, Jon had called me on my cell phone and said, "Are you okay? Are you nervous?" And I wasn't. Karen and I had a very nice dinner, slept comfortably that night. The one thing that I was pleased with was Karen, my wife, had suggested that I go on a steroid pack and it would help keep down the swelling. And I'm very pleased that I did, because I think it took care of it very nicely. I mean, 2-3 days later, I had very minimal amount of swelling. The evening of the procedure, I did take one of the, I forget what the script was, the painkillers, and took a half of one the next day, and from there on I didn't take anything. I think probably some It wasn't aspirin. I'd have to ask Karen what she gave me, but very minimal pain. And the one thing I did, I did keep the wrap on, and I did have some small ice packs for the first couple of days that I would stuff inside the head wrap. I did become very careful about bumping my ears, and didn't wear any shirts where I had to take them over my head. The following week, Karen and I went on vacation, and I forgot, and I did put a shirt over my head, and I had a little bleeding, but we were out of country, and Karen did bring her suture kit in case she had to sew my ear back on. Well, the day I came in for the procedure, I happened to talk to my younger sister, and she was coming in for some Botox, and I said, "Hey, this is perfect. You can come see me in the OR." And so Jon took me in. I was very relaxed, then he started injecting me, and the injection really made me quite puffy on one side, but it's to help keep down the bleeding from what I was told. And at that point, my wife brought my sister back. And so we took a little break, and we had some good laughs standing in the hallway with my sister. And, I was very comfortable, very relaxed all the way through. And then somewhere in there, Jon said, I've injected you on your left side of your face, so we'll start on that side first. I want to do a little bit on your right side, but I'm not going to do all of it until we get done with the left side. So once again, he explained to me all the way through what he was doing, how he was doing it. And my sister told me afterwards, she called me 2 days later, and she said, "You were quite comical. You were cutting up, joking, and so that's really how relaxed I was through the whole procedure." Yeah, so after the procedure, they took me into what I'll probably call the post-op room, and I had a little water. I figured out that you cannot sip through a straw after you've had everything numbed. So that was kind of interesting, and I actually dozed. I did get a little bit of sleep. While I was in post-op, there was really, I felt no pain. There was no burning. It was, I guess, as I keep saying, it was about as comfortable as I ever could imagine it was going to be. There was nothing that really left me going, oh gosh, this is much more painful, or I wish I hadn't done this. All the way through the procedure, the post-op, and when it was time to go, she came in and said, let's head out. And so the ride home was fine, and even the first couple days at home. It was just nice to get the head wrap off, the second day, so I could swallow nicely. I had very minimal bruising. The second day, I had a very light, kind of yellowish bruise under both eyes. And of course, some swelling on each side, but day by day that went down pretty quickly.
So remember, Jerry, you're going to look a little swollen, a little like a chipmunk. I know you know, I just keep reminding you so you don't.
I don't think I'll scare myself.
Well, just you never know. It will feel better getting this off for sure.
The good thing was, if she told me to do something last night, I couldn't hear it because of those. I said, honey, it's the first time I can actually ignore you.
And get away with it?
And get away with it.
Or at least have a reason.
Uh-huh. How's that look, honey?
Well, actually, I think he looks great.
Okay, don't panic.
I'm not. No, I think that looks good.
So we're going to go over some things here.
Okay.
Obviously, on both sides, you've got a lot of swelling. You look like a chipmunk. Underneath your ear on both sides, probably worse on that left side, it's going to look sort of pulled back here. Okay, you sort of look like a cobra. Okay. So this is going to feel sort of dull and woody Okay, so that's why we told you maybe not to shave right now. Behind your ears on both sides, you can see the way it's a little bit ripply back here. It's a little bit pulled, same thing. That will settle down and kind of redistribute, but by making those incisions a little bit shorter here, we've got kind of a long edge and a short edge, and we do bunch up that tissue a little bit. So I just don't want you to worry while you're
No,
doing
I'm not shocked at all.
Okay, so your jaw and chin and jawline look great.
Very good.
This kind of pulled look here you will not have.
Okay.
As we discussed the other day, in men, if anything, we see a little bit more relaxation because of the beard, the blood supply, the weight of the skin, which typically looks quite natural and normal. And so the procedure was on a Thursday, and on Sunday afternoon, I went to Kroger. We were grilling out, we were having some friends over. And as I'm walking through Kroger, I saw one of my wife's friends, and I said, "Hey, Jill." And she looked at me and she said, "You know, I saw you over there," and I thought, "That's Jerry Whitney." And then I thought, "No, it's not him." And as I came around the corner and looked at your face, it is Jerry Whitney. So what did you have done? So I was very comfortable with being out. I still did have a little swelling, but I guess that would have been one of my, if I look back, that was one of my concerns. How quickly could I be back out in public without anybody really noticing that I had had something done? Yeah, when we, as you know, so I went through the week, I knew I was coming in the following Friday to have the sutures out. And the sutures were so small and tightly stitched that they were almost unnoticeable. And so coming in, you know, once again, it was painless, very nice to get the sutures out. One of the things, you know, I usually shave every day, and so I had about 5-6 days of growth, and it was nice to be able to go home and shave very carefully. I didn't want to slice anything open, but even that went very smoothly. And as I was leaving, they provided me with some very nice, I think it's a 45 or a 50 sunblock. And then my wife, Karen, actually provided me with a product that helps the incisions heal very softly. And so those are the two things that I've used every day since the procedure. I think it's been about 4.5, 5 weeks ago. This met every expectation that I would have as to how it would help me present myself a little differently. As I've traveled for the last 4 weeks and met with existing clients and met with new prospects, you know, one prospect that I met with in New York this week, he said, "Well, you had some type of surgery in the last, when I first talked to you 4 or 5 weeks ago. Did everything go okay?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And he said, "Do you mind if I ask you what it was?" And I said, I kind of smiled and said, "Well, I don't really tell people, but I had a facelift." And he kind of looked, we were sitting in a restaurant, he looked on both sides and he said, "Damn, that looks good." He said, "Could you give me this guy's number? I may want to have a facelift. And my wife really would like to have a facelift, and I'm sure it's less expensive in Ohio than it is in New York." So it was a very simple procedure. On a scale of 1 to 10, the pain level for me was maybe a 1 or a 2. It healed very rapidly. As I've said all along, this was far less strenuous and complicated than I ever thought it would be. What's your recommendation to other businessmen if they're thinking about this? And my recommendation is don't put it off. It's really very simple, and you can return to society very quickly.